Hello guys, today we're going to finish 3.3. In this lesson, we're going to focus on remainder and the factor theorem. So what is the remainder theorem? If the polynomial f of x is divided by x minus c, then the remainder is f of c. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at example. Given f of x equal to x to the third power minus 4x squared plus 5x plus 3. Use the remainder theorem to find f of 2. If you look at this remainder theorem above, what is our c is just 2. We're going to use synthetic division to do this, okay, because it's much easier. So I'm going to put a 2 right here, and then we're going to write down the coefficient for x to the third power, which is 1, and then we'll write down the coefficient for x squared, that is -4, and then we're going to write 5 and 3. Okay, we've done this in previous lesson. All we have to do now, we're going to bring this down, so 1, and then we multiply this. That will be 2, we add them, that will be -2, and then we'll do again, we'll multiply, that will be -4, we add them, that is +1, and then multiply, that gives us 2, and then we're going to add them together, that gives us 5. So this 5 is our remainder. By the remainder theorem, so we're going to say f of 2 is equal to 5. It's very straightforward. Okay, so you could use long division to do this as well. Okay, but I like to use synthetic division because it's much faster. And also in the past we learned if we need to evaluate, let's say f of 2, all we have to do is plug this inside your function, right? This is your function. So you're going to get exactly the same answer. You can't use this method because this question wanting to use the remainder theorem to solve it. So you can only to use it to check your answer, but you cannot use it to solve it. Okay, you're going to lose the points. Alright guys, let's go ahead move on. The factor theorem, let f of x be a polynomial. If f of c equals 0, then x minus c is a factor of f of x. B, if x minus c is a factor of f of x, then we say f of c equals 0. Let's go ahead and see how we apply this factor theorem. Okay, example 6, solve the equation 2x to the third power minus 3x squared minus 11x plus 6 equals 0, given that 3 is a 0 of f of x equal to 2x to the third power minus 3x squared minus 11x plus 6. So let's take a look. So in this question, they're given to you 3 is a 0 of your function, right? So I'm going to write it down. Given 3 is a 0 of f of x, so by the factor theorem, it means f of 3 equals 0, right? So if you look at this definition right here, we say if this is 0, that means f of c is 0. So f of 3 is 0. Then x minus 3 is a factor of f of x. Okay, all I'm doing is just plugging 3 for my c in this case. So that's my c. So this is 3 is given to me. Okay, so I just follow the factor theorem. I write it down. So now I can use the division again. So I'm going to put a c. So that's my 3 right there. I'm going to set up the division. That will be, so here that will be 2, -3, -11, and 6. All right, that is our coefficient. Okay, we're going to bring this down with multiply. So we'll do this so many times. I'm just going to do it pretty quickly. So that gave me +3. Then multiply again. That is 9. We're going to add this. That will be -2. Again, multiply. 3 multiply -2 give me -6. And then we'll add them together. Give me 0. Okay, so if you did this correctly, your remainder you should get right here is 0. Given to you 3 is a 0 of your function. So that means your remainder must be 0. Okay, if you get 3 or something, that must be somewhere wrong. Go back to check it. Okay, all right. So once we have this, so now we're going to solve this equation. All right, so I'm going to write it down. That's 2x to the third power minus 3x squared. I'm just copying down this part. Minus 11x plus 6 equals 0. So now we're going to solve this. We said x minus 3 is a factor of the function. That means I can write this as x minus 3, okay, that is my factor for the function, and then this whole thing equals 0. Remember this, okay, this is my number, right? And then this is my x term, this is the x squared term, right? That is our coefficient. So I'm going to write it down right here. That will be 2x squared plus 3x minus 2. So again, where those numbers come from, we use the given 0 as a c to use the synthetic division to solve it. We verify the remainder is 0, and then we're going to write x minus 3 and 2x squared plus 3x minus 2. That is where all the numbers come from. So once we have this, okay, so now we can actually factor this part. 2x minus 1 and then x plus 2. So x minus 3 is 0. We're going to have 2x minus 1 is 0. We're also going to have x plus 2 is 0. Okay. Now we're going to have x equals 3, which we already know because they gave it to you. So we'll just write it down. Then x equal to 1/2. We also have x equal negative 2. So our final solution, I'm going to write it as 3 1/2 and negative 2. Okay. Let's go back and look really quick. So for this type of questions, if it's just given to you because there's 4 terms involved, you can't solve this equation. Okay, that's why we have to use the factor theorem. So use 3, set it up as the synthetic division, then you make sure your remainder is 0. Then we're going to write this in the factoring form, okay, right here. Then from there, because it's 3 terms now, so you can just factor it. Once you factor them and then you solve it, you get your solution. Okay, that is how you solve this type of question. Alright, let's try another one. So again, we're solving it by using the factoring theorem in this case. Many students struggle with this question, so I put it here so to explain to everybody. So let's go ahead and try this. Okay, so here we have a equation given to us. Negative 3 over 4 is 0. So all we have to do is going to set up a synthetic equation. We're going to put this 0, so negative 3 over 4 as our c. If you want to write it down, you could. Okay, just like earlier, I write it down. Given negative 3 over 4 is 0. That means f of negative 3 over 4 must be equal to 0. This also implies that x minus negative 3 over 4 is a factor for the f of x. Let's go ahead and set this up, okay? So we have negative 3 over 4, and then we're going to write down this division set up. That's 48 for coefficients, all right? So then we also have a 40, and then negative 1, right? Negative 3. It's just a fraction. You do the exactly same thing. You're going to bring this down 48. You multiply them. If you want to, you can use your calculator. So then you're going to end up this negative 3 over 4 multiplied 48 is just going to give you negative 36. Then we add those together. That is positive 4. And then we're going to multiply this again. That just gives us negative 3. And then we're going to add them again. That's negative 4. Multiply again is a positive 3, and add them together is 0. Again, if you did it correctly, this remainder is 0. So now we're going to solve this equation. So I'm going to write it down because we said right here, this is a factor, right? It's just an x minus c form. Our c in this case is negative, so be careful on this, okay? Be careful of the signs. So that's our c. So we're going to write it down right here. So x minus negative 3 over 4, I'm just leave it that way. That's our factor. And then the rest of the stuff, whatever you get right here, okay? That'll be 48. That's x squared, right? And then plus 4x and then minus 4. This whole thing equals 0. Okay, this is where each piece comes from. Okay, it's just a coefficient. Alright, so once you have this, because here we have 3 terms, we know how to factor this, right? So let me just go ahead, simplify this a little bit. I'm going to take a 4 out, and then I'm going to write it down. 12x squared plus x minus 1 equals 0. So then I'm going to continue. Okay, I'm just leave that 4 alone. That's just a constant. So I can actually factor this piece, 12x squared plus x minus 1. So I factor this. So that will be 3x plus 1 and then 4x minus 1. That's how we factor it. So then we're going to set this up. It's going to be 0. And then we have 3x plus 1 is 0. And then also we have 4x minus 1 is 0. So we already know the first piece because this is given to us. x equal to negative 3 over 4. And then we have x equal to negative 1 over 3. We also have x equal to 1 over 4. Okay, that is our solution. So I write it down, my solution. Negative 3 over 4, negative 1/3, and 1 over 4. So that is my final solution. Okay, again, don't forget this. Just because it's given to you, you still got to make sure to include that inside your solution. Thank you for watching the video. I'll see you guys next time.